Welcome here into Teal, the show. All right, we are still counting down to another home game at the bank and still looking for the Jaguars to get their first win of the year. Frank Frangie is here with us tonight. Frank, this is a big week for the Jaguars for more than one reason. Throwbacks going to be out there on the field. Tom Coughlin going to be inducted into the pride of the Jaguars. But most importantly, the team is still looking for their first win of the year. Yeah,
this is that stretch that when we all looked at the schedule beforehand, those first four were going to be tough. Now, I don't think anybody expected 0-4, but that first stretch was going to be tough. The question is now, does it lighten up a little bit? The Colts come here. They haven't won here in 10 years. You have 2 games in London. I said this before. That's great. Right now, they have to win 1 game. Worry about somehow, some way, find a way to win 1 game, and I think that's what's on their mind right now.
Now, you know, losing obviously brings out the worst in things. There's a report that's spiraling throughout the internet this week that Doug Peterson may have lost the locker room, according to that report. Asked a couple of guys in the locker room about it this week. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Trevor Lawrence all say that is completely false.
I mean, I shouldn't even have to. You got to do your job, so you got to ask it, but I shouldn't even have to answer it. I mean, not at all. I don't know where that's coming from, so I don't even want to really expand on something that's just not true. So
I don't know who said that, but that's just not true. You know, this is our team. It's a player-ran team, and you know, Doug has done a great job of just putting it in our hands and help facilitating that. And you know, we all know he wants the best for us. So, you know, that's 100% false.
Now, losing obviously stirs these sorts of reports. Winning teams don't have these sorts of problems. But Frank, the players all say that they still believe in Doug Peterson and came here to play for Doug.
I think it's absolutely one of the most preposterous reports I've ever seen. I'm around those players. I'm on the plane with those guys. I'm in the hotel with those guys. I'm around those guys all the time. That's not even close to correct. They like him, he likes them, they trust each other. Now, everybody's frustrated they're losing, but to suggest, I think it's an irresponsible report. To suggest nationally and then have it spiral all over the place virally, as you pointed out, is irresponsible on the reporter's part. It's not even close to true. You can say a lot of things about what this team has done and hasn't done, but there's no truth to that. They're close. He's close to them. They're close to him. Everybody's frustrated. Your hands are up in the air. How can you not win a game? You're the only team in the league that's winless, and that makes people frustrated. But to suggest he's lost that locker room is preposterous, and I like the way the players responded to it. I really do.
All right, Frank. So they're in the middle of this losing streak. Now, if they're going to get out of it, they all have to trust one another. Now, this is something that we've seen them do before. 2022, I think a lot of us have fond memories of that season, at least the way it ended. But the middle of the year, there was a 5-game losing streak right there. And then all of a sudden, light switch comes on. There's a race to the finish. They find themselves in the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. The rest is history. The question was, what can they take from that 2022 season and apply to now? And the lesson that most of the players say is that it was a long season.
Yeah, we just trusted the process. That's what it's about, right? You want to just continue to hone in, no panic, just continue to focus on your job. For me, you know, just choosing not to doubt. Doubt was always a choice, and you don't want to choose that. Just choose to have faith in your leaders, have faith in the guys around you. And I think once we start playing as one, offense and defense, things will come together.
It's that it's a long season. And, you know, I think I said it before, thankfully, you know, we have a lot more opportunities ahead of us than that are behind us. And we can't do anything about what's behind us. Only thing we can do is focus on what's in front of us, and that's, you know, going 1-0 this weekend. Obviously, there's been, you know, some opportunities, you know, on our part that have been missed and that have led to, you know, us losing football games. But, you know, we just got to get there, put it all together, and just get one. And then, you know, hopefully that'll accumulate to getting more.
Frank, they know it's a long year, but they also know they got to get a win at some point, and they need to try and get it this week.
Well, that's the thing. Number one, it is a long season. It's a marathon, man. We talk about it all the time. You're in training camp in July. The Super Bowl's in February. That's a long time between those 2 stretches. But, yeah, they got to find a way to win a game. Once you win one, it can start rolling a little bit, but you got to win that first game. Look. I'll say it again. You knew those first 4 were going to be tough. Nobody expected 0-4. Find a way to get a win. I do think it's instructive, though, that in the past you've had a time where you struggled and came out of it. It's happened a number of times. 2 years ago, they were 3-7. They were 3-7, but nobody blinked. They went to the break. They came back and were very good after that. Won 6 of their last 7 games. So I don't think anybody is panicking yet, but you got to get that win. You'll feel way better if you get that 1 win.
All right, we still got plenty more Teal the Show left here coming up. We'll see if they can get that win this week. We'll talk about the matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. Plus, we got to talk about Tom Coughlin. He's going into the pride of the Jaguars. We'll talk about the old ball coach a little bit coming up when Teal the Show returns. All right, welcome back here into Teal the Show. We mentioned it a few times already. Tom Coughlin going into the pride of the Jaguars, the first head coach in franchise history, and brought this team so many fond memories. Finally going to see his name hung up there in the stadium.
And boy, oh boy, does he deserve it. I've been here the whole time. I remember when they were working out of a trailer, when he had 1 desk to work at. He had to build an NFL team out of a trailer, and he had to share the desk in the trailer. So it was a hard build. He was the general manager and the coach. Think about this. Just think about it. In their second year of existence, they went to the AFC Championship game, and within 3 or 4 years, they were probably one of the best teams in the league. What he did with that team, the culture, the toughness, the way he built that thing, the way they played under him. Tom Coughlin will be remembered forever here as a gigantic part of what this Jaguar organization is, and I'm really glad he's going up. I really am.
Got a chance to catch up with Coach Coughlin, Tony Boselli, and Fred Taylor. Now, the two things that his former players both echoed is that Tom really helped them grow, not just as players on the field, but as men off the field. And Coach Coughlin said that was honestly the most rewarding part of his job.
I mean, I think Tom's one of the best coaches to ever walk the sideline in the NFL. So not only do I think he's right where he belongs in the pride of the Jaguars, I think he deserves to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I don't think there's not many guys who've coached that are better than him. What he did at this franchise, 2 AFC title games, building it from the ground up, going to the New York Giants, winning 2 Super Bowls. I mean, the guy flat knows how to coach.
And it's so many different things. And I go back to learning how to be accountable, learning how to be a consummate pro, being able to move with integrity, learning how to be a leader, knowing what leadership is all about. Those little things he continued to try to instill in us.
When you look up at that name represents about 200 people in the first 9 years of the franchise, okay? And the commitment and the way we shared winning. When we won here, everybody won. It was the greatest thing in the world to see.
Such a cool moment to be able to really honor Coach Coughlin on the field at halftime,
Yeah.
and they're going to do it while wearing the throwback uniforms, which the players are really excited about. And I know guys like Tony Boselli and Fred Taylor are going to be excited to see those jerseys, that logo, back out on the field.
You know what's neat about the whole thing? Tom going in, the throwbacks. You know, generations. People say generations like 20 years, right? So there's different generations. Even though their team's only been here 30 years, there's different generations of Jaguar fans. But this connects them all. The young Jaguar fans who never saw them play in those uniforms, who only have heard about Fred Taylor and Tony Boselli and Tom Coughlin, now can get connected back to its roots. I think there's nothing more important than for a current fan to get connected back to the roots of a team or roots of an organization. And this is a week for them to do that. This is a special time, man. This is a special time for the new Jaguar fans, the old Jaguar fans, all to kind of connect. It's going to be a special Sunday. It truly, truly is.
All right, let's talk about one thing that would maybe put the cherry on top of that special Sunday, a win.
Yeah.
Now, the Indianapolis Colts haven't won a game here in Jacksonville in a long time, Frank. 2014 was the last time the Colts won a game here in Jacksonville. The Jaguars want to keep that streak going, but that's going to be easier said than done.
Yeah, the Jags, the one thing, I've thought about this all week long after the 4th game, the one thing the Jags have to do is play with more consistency. At times, they are very good. They hold their blocks. They spring Tank Bigsby on a 58-yard run. Trevor throws 2 touchdown passes and throws really good balls from really good play calls. Other times, Trevor misses the open guy. Other times, the blocker misses the block. Other times, the play call's not good. The Jags, when they're good, and you can say this about a lot of teams, by the way, when the Jags, when they're good, have been very good. They've been an inconsistent football team through these first 4 games. You think about the best golfer in the world is Scotty Scheffler. You know why? Because he hits a great shot every time. He's not the longest guy, he's not the best putter, but he does it every time. Trevor's got to get to where he hits that open guy every time, which is what the great quarterbacks in the NFL do. When the consistency comes, because everything else is in place, the Jags will be okay.
This guy sounding like Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson actually used Scotty Scheffler as an example. President's Cup, big swing. He talked about having to take a little bit off of it because the adrenaline gets going. Use that as an example of what happens with Trevor maybe every so often during the game when we see those overthrows. The adrenaline gets going. He sees it, knows he can make it, and the adrenaline maybe carries it a little too far.
He used that analogy. That's why I thought about it, as a matter of fact. So he used it, but I used a different one, and that's the consistency one. Look, consistency is the last thing to come with any young player, with any young team. The last thing to come is the consistency. The last thing to come is get to where you can do it on a regular basis. That's coming for the Jaguars. But again, we said it at the top. We said it on Monday's Teal, the show, Jamal. They've got to get a win. There's one goal, man. Get that first one. Don't worry about London. Don't worry about how the schedule changes. Don't worry about the division. Get one win, and that's what's important on Sunday.
All right, red zone offense has to be a little bit more consistent, too. That's one thing where they've left points out on the field. You'll hear coaches always talk about hidden points, points left out on the field. red zone offense, too many opportunities down there close in, and that they've ended up kicking field goals or not cashing on.
Yeah, too. Red zone offense and third downs. And when your red zone offense and third downs are all over the place, it's because you haven't been a consistent football team. I think that will change. I think, again, make the easy throws. Again, it's funny. You can make the tough throws. These guys are making the tough blocks. They're getting off the tough jams. But are they doing it every time? So we'll see what winds up happening. You're right about that. Red zone offense is very important. Third down offense, they got to get better.
All right, Frank. If we're sitting here on Monday and we're talking about a win, who had a great game? Guys like Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Trevor's played fantastic at home against the Colts. 3-0, obviously, an over 100% QB rating. Travis Etienne scored a touchdown against him 2 of the last 3 games against the Colts. So the Jaguars have guys that have excelled against Indianapolis. Who's the guy?
When they're at their best, their stars show up. Christian Kirk had the best game of his season last year. Evan Ingram's back in the lineup, it looks like. I'm going to go with Evan Ingram because I think he changes them. So, but when they're good, make no mistake about this. When they're good, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, the same guys for the last 3 years, man. It's the same guys. When they're good, those guys have to play well. One other thing to think about is who steps up defensively. Josh Hines-Allen has been in the concussion protocol. We don't know what his status is going to be. Someone's got to get after the passer. Regardless of which passer the Colts play, someone's got to get after the passer. That's a big part of this thing as well.
All right, we've reached that point, Frank. What are you going to do? Who are you picking?
I think the Jags are going to win. I think the Jags are going to win. It's hard to pick them when they've been struggling, but they're not going to lose them all. I think they've got a better team than their record shows. I really believe that. They do play well against the Colts here. I think it's a special day with the uniforms and with Tom going in. I think the Jags are going to beat the Indianapolis Colts.
I like the sound of that. Keep the streak alive. We'll see if it happens. Maybe we can be sitting here for our first victory Monday of the season. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Thanks for being here, Frank. Thank you at home for tuning in. Good night, everybody, and go Jags.